terrifying sound of an approaching Russian drone. Then the explosion echoes through the dark in Ukraine's eastern city of Kharkiv. This is what night times often like in towns and cities across the country. Russia says it doesn't target civilian areas, but night after night, day after day, it's Ukrainian people who suffer the most. Residential areas, blocks of flats obliterated, either by direct hits or intercepted debris.
As a drone got closer, I moved to the corridor. Then it hit. The blast wave threw me deeper into the building. I fell onto shattered glass, then got up and started searching for my relatives to make sure they were safe. There are no factories or industrial buildings here. It's a residential neighbourhood. The only facilities nearby are a school and a kindergarten. Nothing else.
Underground in the capital, Kyiv, people shelter in the metro, as they have done for more than 3.5 years during Russia's full-scale invasion.
Their goal is to destroy the nation, to destroy Ukrainians. They're doing everything they can in order to achieve their goal.
Russia has stepped up its attacks on energy infrastructure in recent weeks. Ukraine has done the same. But these are people's homes in the western city of Ternopil after a nighttime barrage of drones and missiles killed and injured dozens of people. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is in Turkiye for talks he says are aimed at reinvigorating negotiations to end the war. Talks the Kremlin says it won't attend. Charles Stratford, Al Jazeera.
Meanwhile, Poland has announced it's closing Russia's last operating consulate in the country, located in the city of Gdansk. It comes after the Polish government blamed Russia for an attack on a railway line that led to the border with Ukraine. Moscow has denied involvement in the incident. Yulia Shapovalova is live for us now in Moscow. What's Moscow saying about these attacks in Ukraine, Yulia?
Well, actually, Moscow never comments on civilian casualties or damage in Ukraine caused by Russian attacks. Instead, they always say that they never target civilian infrastructure. And now the Russian armed forces actually confirmed that they had delivered a massive strike on military-industrial complex and energy facilities in the western regions of Ukraine in response to what they called terrorist attacks by Kiev. And indeed, earlier today, the Russian Ministry of Defense actually released a statement saying that on Tuesday, on November the 18th, Kiev attempted to launch a missile strike on civilian targets deep into Russian territory. And the Ukrainian side used 4 US-made ATACMS tactical missiles in an attempt to strike the city of Voronezh in central Russia. And Russian S-400 air defense systems, as well as Panzer air systems, intercepted all those ATACMS. And this basically latest attack triggered talks about the armed forces of Ukraine who are unable, who cannot independently use ATACMS. Such attacks can only be done by the US armies with the help of the US Army satellite group. Therefore, this means direct participation of the US Army in strikes.
Meanwhile, Poland, Russia slashing remaining diplomatic ties as the standoff between the EU and Moscow continues to escalate.
Yes, that's right. And well, Moscow also responded to these latest accusations from Poland. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, called Poland's decision to close the Russian consulate in Gdansk a decision, a manifestation of the degradation of relations with Warsaw. And according to him, the Polish authorities are trying to reduce diplomatic relations between the two countries to zero. And that's quite regrettable from his point of view. And earlier, he also said that accusations against Russia in connection with the incident on the railway in Poland are absolutely groundless. So basically, in response to this Polish decision, Russia will have to reduce the diplomatic and consular presence of Polish diplomats here in Russia. It will be the response to the decision of the Polish authorities to close that last operating Russian consulate in Gdansk. And Poland says this decision was made in response to sabotage that recently occurred on the Polish railway. As you said, Russia denied that.
Yulia Shapovalova live for us there in Moscow. Yulia, thank you very much indeed. Alexei Gorachenko is a Ukrainian member of parliament with the opposition European Solidarity Party. He's joining us live from Ukraine. So thank you very much indeed for being with us. I was looking at the map and saw that Ternopil, the latest, one of the latest targets, appears to be right on the border with Poland. Why do you think it is that Russia seems to be targeting Ternopil particularly?
Hello, Alexei Goncharenko. Thank you for invitation. Russia attacks different cities all the time. Unfortunately, awful tragedy now in Ternopil, where 20 people were civilians, were killed because of Russian attack. But before it was in Odessa, before in Kiev, before in Kharkiv, and before in Lviv, which is even closer to Polish border. So Russia attacks civilian infrastructure. Their aim is to freeze Ukrainians to death during this winter. So they continue to cause as much terror against civilians as possible. This is Russian war playbook.
If I understand it correctly, if these drones and missiles were launched from Russia, then they would of course have to cross the bulk of Ukraine in order to reach the far west of Ukraine. How concerning is it that Ukraine's defense systems seem unable to stop these attacks, given the limitations that Julia, our correspondent in Moscow, was telling us with regard to particularly the ATACMS systems?
Russia is attacking western regions of Ukraine from the very first day of invasion, and it is impossible. Ukraine is a huge country, and it is unfortunately impossible to completely stop any missiles or drones on their way. We are intercepting part, but we definitely need more weapons, more systems, more air defense. That's what we are asking from our allies, and that's very important. Also, what is important is strengthening sanctions against Russia, because they're still using Western chips and other technical parts in their missiles and drones, and it's something which should be stopped.
Given the fact that we were just reporting that Poland says that there was an attack on a train inside Poland on a line that was leading to Ukraine, is there a suggestion, do you think, that Russia is in some way also using these attacks to essentially test the reactions of NATO countries and EU countries?
Absolutely. That's what they are doing all the time. They're testing the boundaries. They're testing the reaction. And when they attacked Poland with drones, which then happened to be without explosives, but these were drones for many kilometers inside Polish territory. By the way, it was also, as we saw, it was a problem for Poland and allies to intercept them. Also, Russia uses again hybrid attacks on the borders with Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, Estonia all the time. So Russia is escalating hybrid war, and not just against Ukraine. The actual aim of Russia is the war against the whole Europe, and they are already testing the reaction and the capacities of European countries to answer on Russian provocations.
Vladimir Zelenskyy, as we were reporting, Ukraine's president's in Turkiye to try to, he says, revive some sort of peace talks. There is also a certain amount of media speculation about a US peace plan, a 28-point plan that's being mooted in conjunction with Moscow, which doesn't appear to involve Ukraine. What are your opinions about the efforts to try to find some sort of peace negotiation in this?
We need peace as soon as possible here in Ukraine. I don't know details of this 28-point plan, which we heard from some Western media. But again, we are ready for peace. Ukraine, from March of this year, agreed to freeze the conflict on the current lines. And the war continues only because Russia wants to continue the war and doesn't want peace. We here in Ukraine, we want peace. We will never accept surrender because Russia can't achieve its goals by military way. Their summer offensive failed. There are many operations that are not really successful, and they cost them a lot. But we want to end this war as soon as possible.
We really appreciate you giving us your thoughts on this. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable news and expert insights. Like, share, stay ahead.